you doing? This is Will Ortiz. We're here at Green Hill Park, and we're by the skateboard park and by the handball court at Green Hill in Worcester, Massachusetts. Now, we recently had some vandalism on our courts, which is right here, right in front of us, and they were taken care of immediately. One of our friends sent us a picture of the vandalism, and we were able to my wife got in contact with the parks here, and they were able to take care of it immediately, which is the proper way to handle vandalism in unwanted spaces. I mean, this is a space which is a skate park. It's a beautiful skate park that was built at the same time as the handball court, and they were supposed to coexist together, and they got the fencing, they got the concrete and everything like that, and then we ended up not getting fencing on ours, but it caused a bit of a problem because we needed obviously the fencing to keep our ball and to play the sport properly, but we also needed it for proper designation and safety too, because the ball goes into the street and stuff like that. Other than that, there's this thing with art and vandalism, you know what I mean, having its place, and more, let's call it art and stuff like that. This has been accepted in the skateboard community, but it should stay in the skateboard community. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't come in here and do things that can interfere with them skating. But there's a small percentage of the group that uses this that gravitate to other spaces like our amenity, which is the handball court, and other things. You know what I mean? They've spray painted on the trees. The trash can is, that's not this trash can. There's the porta potties are all covered up, which is a privately put here, and that happened last year as well. So that's the problem with sometimes not having some limitations to expressive art, where it should be where it's going to be. If you accepted this stuff as random art or freedom of expression or something like that, okay, that's fine. That's accepted in the skateboard community. But when you start going beyond the skateboard community into other amenities, whether it's a neighboring tennis court, a handball court, basketball court, or whatever it may be, then you're already surpassing the lines, the boundaries that were already allowed to you by the cities or towns that you're at, and by the community accepting it. You know what I mean? I grew up where this was the norm in a lot of the communities, even on a lot of the handball courts, but not by the handball players. It was unfortunately what was going on in a lot of the inner cities and the cities, and even beyond the cities. Being born and raised in Brooklyn and going to Holyoke, Massachusetts, being in the Western Mass area and beyond, that was happening a lot. Like I said, if you've accepted it as some type of subculture that does exist and people are doing it, some of the artists are actually really good artists, but others are just randomly scribbling or whatever it is that you're doing, however you're doing it. I don't want to step into their boundary, like their side, and say, hey, you shouldn't do this. Or in my personal opinion, I think I prefer that it was a nice, clean skating area, but that's just me, because I know what happens. It does spread a lot, because I've seen it in numerous communities where it doesn't stay on the skate park. That's one of the problems. I mean, we see it in Holyoke, where it spreads to signs that are there for, to inform people about the park and just have the name and everything. And it goes way beyond that to the trees, to the parking lots, and that's where the problem is. You know what I mean? How to have that proper designation and even signage. If you're gonna have your art, your expressive art, keep it where it belongs. You know what I mean? Now, when you go beyond that, to buildings, to private property, to whatever it may be, then it's a lack of respect. That's the problem. It's vandalism. It's a crime. You know what I mean? Nobody wants their house all spray painted, their car all spray painted, or whatever it is, vandalized. So, like I said, nobody's saying. Remember, I grew up with the graffiti, hip hop era, breakdancing, DJing, rhyming, all of that stuff, and I know about this, expressive art. But there has to be a balance, and that's where the balance is falling apart. You know what I mean? It's not well balanced. You know what I mean? People need to know that you can't force something on someone else that it doesn't work for. Like, for us, it doesn't work on the handball wall to have either murals or a designated graffiti or anything like that, even with positive messages, because a positive message is basically the activity occurring and players filling up the courts, people doing positive recreation, affordable recreation, and having a good time playing the sport that they love. Just like the skateboarders want to come in here, the people on their BMXs or whatever they are called now. They want to come in and have a good time, and we don't want to interfere with that. I think there should be more skate parks throughout, you know, the state or whatever it is, wherever you want to put them. But we don't want them affecting us, you know, because it's been since it's been built. You know what I mean? Not only do they skate all over it, they write on the wall, you know, on a regular basis. They write on the floors. And that's the problem that we have, because that's more of a respect issue. And you don't want to just cover that up and bandage that, like by covering it and just putting a mural up, because you're not teaching and instilling proper respect in the people that are supposed to be loving their towns and cities. That means that they're taking it for granted and they don't have any respect. I have a problem with that. You know what I mean? I think that like I said, I come from a background that's a pretty rough background, you know what I mean? And I grew up in a time where between New York and Western Mass, where those places were in a much rougher state. You know what I mean? So I don't want to hear anything about, you don't understand the culture, this and that. I mean, I grew up in New York in the 70s and 80s, where it was horrific, and I, you know, experienced a lot of, you know, certain, you know, things in my life that I know about what is rough and what's not. So I don't want to buy into that. You know, I think that it's a lack of respect, and I think that people need to learn to respect, and that's it. You can appreciate what you have, and I think I'm supportive of this one. I'm supportive of the one at Crompton, but I already noticed a tag already at Crompton in a small area. That's the way it starts, and next thing you know, the whole place and beyond starts getting all tagged up, and that's a problem, because it's a very positive activity. It's an awesome activity, and to me, it could be a lifetime activity too. I mean, there's people that skate well into their 50s and 60s, and you know, they love it. You know what I mean? This becomes part of their life. So we're not against skateboarding, and we're not against murals either. That's the thing. It's just that we're against people trying to force something and messing something else that's positive, and saying, hey, you got to accept it our way. You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, there's already 2 skate parks here, and they already have that. This is their expressive art. So we just went through that. It's an ongoing thing. And the reason why it bothers me so much, and my wife, is because we're the ones that a lot of times are the ones that are doing the painting, doing the advocating, working with the towns and the cities to get these built or protected or preserved and fenced in, whatever it may be. We're doing clinics, we're doing all of these things. And that's why we don't want to have some, you know, random stuff all over the walls, you know what I mean? And one, it affects our visibility, but 2, it just doesn't look right. You know what I mean? I think that is an overkill. Even this, once you start getting out of the park, this shouldn't be covered in graffiti. You know what I mean? That's just my strong opinion. That should be respected. It should be, this is what we have here. But they don't give a shit. You know what I mean? That's frankly, these are people that have not all of them, the ones that are doing it. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to classify and put everyone in one group, but there's a small percentage of the people that do this, and others on a regular basis. So it's not just 1 or 2 people. You probably got 30 or 40 people that do this off and on, you know, out of the probably 300 people that use this space. You know what I mean? But it does go beyond, you know what I mean? But even if they're gonna do this and this is allowed, this is where it should stop.
Wait, there's nothing there in those regulations about vandalism?
I'm looking, at first, this thing was made for only skateboards only. There was no bikes supposed to be allowed here. This facility is for skateboards and inline skates only. You know, here it says bikes, scooters, motorized vehicles, cycles, whatever, foot traffic are prohibited. So they get something that said, or foot traffic are prohibited. But all the traffic in the freaking world can be, is allowed on the court. And we say, hey, we don't want people to cut through while we're in the middle of a game and all of that. So that doesn't apply to the handball court. You know what I mean? Here, it even says foot traffic. That's crazy. So that means every possible thing between the fencing, even, you know, obviously they don't enforce the bikes, you know, it kind of works for bikes, and I think
they get nice. We don't have regulations on our signage like that. We don't have
anything. We had to fight for that little sign right there.
So we're gonna have to fight for signage for that.
Skating and biking prohibited.
And that signage I had to fight for back in 2008. Skating and biking prohibited on handball court. And even if you point that up there and you have park security, they still does not deter the bikers and the skateboarders from getting on the handball court floor, because one of the reasons is there's no perimeter fencing.
Well, the fencing is the thing, and we already know that there's going to be it's really, really hard to get the fencing here. You know what I mean? We've been fighting. it's like just not wanted. I don't even know exactly why. He thinks it's not aesthetically pleasing.
And now
whatever
they're
it is.
bringing up the
You know.
ADA accessibility.
Yeah, but see, whatever it is, there's no parking like that anyway. So if you're just putting fencing in the back, I don't see it any different than the fencing that's there. There's excuse on top of excuse, and that's just the way it is. But beyond that, if we live without the fencing, and hopefully we get Camp Street built, and they have the 4 courts there, I just don't want to forget about this, because there's 3 spaces where we can grow and develop handball. And some people like the neutrality of this beautiful park.
3 awesome locations.
And and this particular location here is a beautiful park. It's big, it's family friendly. There's plenty of parking. There's other amenities. They usually have bathrooms here. If not, you have the ones by the thing down by where they keep the animals and stuff like that. There's bathrooms down in that section. So all we want is a balance. You know what I mean? We're not telling you to build 50 handball courts throughout the city. Although at one point there was about 5 different locations that people can play. You had Great Brook Valley, you had Plumby Village, you had Maloney Field, you had Castle Park, you had Green Hill, which was here, the old court, and you had the YMCA's, both of them. And you had other places, those were places that were for indoors, but you had it in different locations. So it's not like it's new to be in more than one location. It's a pretty big city. It's really more about respecting and preserving what we have left. And this was built 20 years ago, and we just want to protect and preserve. This is one of the only ones that have 4 courts. So if you want to host something that's a little bit bigger, you want to encourage new players, you want to have some youth playing, at the same time you're doing an event, and you don't want to have people drive all the way somewhere to just maybe have one game, because I know we're hosting a tournament Saturday, and because we only have 2 courts in that particular location, it's a little bit hard to have like a 2-game elimination or longer matches. So having 4 courts gives us that opportunity. Like I said, we're not bashing, because I hate, I would never go and try to do what they're doing, or what they've done to us to them, because I don't want to mess up this skate park for someone else that's doing it.
But they mess it up for
I
the
never,
players.
But the thing is, I never, even if it's gone through my mind, where I've been so frustrated, I was like, what if I just did the same thing that they're doing? I said, I don't want to even go down to that level, because that's not what I want to do. I don't want to mess this up for anybody else. There's some good people that come and use this. The problem is this kind of eradicating the mentality that it's okay to do expressive art anywhere.
What about the handball courts that are gonna be built at Henry Street in Southbridge for next year?
We fought for years. We've always wanted handball in Southbridge, being that there was your hometown. At one point in our lives, there was even thought of us living in Southbridge again. You know what I mean? We were thinking, I was like, well, I like this community. I like its, there's a lot of things that we've done there. We had membership at the Y. We had a membership at Focus Fitness. We still have a lot of family there. And we go there, often. We're in Southbridge a lot. So there was, obviously, it's important to us that community would have it. I know that it would work there. I've always wanted that. So we built, obviously, that court along with other people. And it's been successful. It's a wooden court. It has some limitations. It's in between 2 playgrounds. So it's some, and the town is working well with us, and they found the monies to build an actual good handball court. You know what I mean? An official handball court. The problem with going and immediately muralizing that, because that seems to be coming up for it, would be that it's going to stunt the growth. We're not going to go through all of that trouble just so that way the court could be covered up with a positive message or any message. The message should be that it's another amenity for the town of Southbridge that can be used the way it's supposed to be used. Even for regular standard usage, a mural affects visibility. You know what I mean? The new courts in New York, where handball is the most successful, do not have any murals on their courts. They've had off and on vandalism here and there, but they have no murals, and it's the most successful handball community, I would say, in the world, other than Ireland. And it's because they don't do that. You know what I mean? California, the same thing. There's found spaces that they can put, like in Chicano Park over there, they put the mural on the side of the wall, but not in the interior part, because it affects the game. The main thing you want is people playing the sport, staying active, staying in shape, releasing stress.
And those are great examples of living murals.
The living mural, like watching here. Imagine if we would have came up here, we would have found 25 people playing handball or racquetball or paddle. That would have been inspiring. Like, hey, when do you guys play? I want to come and join you guys. That kind of stuff. Just like if people are skating, I think it's positive when I see people skating. But I don't want to do anything to ever affect the skateboarders. I don't want to do anything to affect kids using a playground, playing baseball. None of that should ever happen. The reason why those things are built is so they can be used, a lot. You know what I mean? You don't want 2 or 3 people in a playground when you put it there. You don't want one person using a brand new basketball court. So when you have handball courts, you want to make sure that people are going to be using these spaces. So that's why whatever it is that can deter someone from using it, like the lack of fencing or a mural or other issues, even an unsafe neighborhood, we try to see how we can work around that and make it better for people
the
to
way
use.
the handball courts are built
Bad
lack
design.
of running space
Bad design
on
can
the
deter
sides,
people.
lack of running space in the back, no fencing,
or
the court floors are warped or has
just
dips.
lack of maintenance. Like if they just fall apart, like this one here, it's already cracking up. So we're already dealing with that. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, we're not against that. I did originally have a problem with this original design being so close to the skate park. The old handball court was on its own, separate, on the old parking lot over there by that new memorial thing. So now this one was placed next to the skate park, which I originally knew would be a problem without fencing. Even with the fencing, it was going to be a problem. But they had it in the design to make a 3-wall court at the time with no fencing, which is the old court had fencing. It didn't make any sense to make a court and make a 3-wall design. However they were going to position it. I still have the old blueprints, the design for that, and I still have that I saved, and I'll post those someday. And that design was going to be a C court. It was going to be shorter, and it wasn't going to have that. So I changed that, and I made this design, but I thought that we were going to have some fencing. You know what I mean? But that's 20 years ago.
So early this morning, the DPW painted the other side of the handball wall that one of the people that come here consistently to practice his tennis swings told me about. So it was on this side.
See, and this is the other excessive. See all of those marks?
Yeah.
That's from when they jumped on the wall, come down, and it is scraping against the wall. So that's a problem already in itself.
Yeah, so the wall looks a little better.
No, yeah, but it's good. See, that's how you maintain it. You don't have to maintain it by just covering it up. You're covering up a problem. What you really want to work on is instilling the respect that people need to have for each other. And when they don't, then laws have to be enforced. Rules have to be enforced. You can't have people doing stuff like that and getting away with it all the time and not even a slap on the wrist, nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like if it was the other way around where we were messing that up, there probably would have been some arrests and some people getting tased.
Oh
and shit
yeah,
like that.
a lot.
You know
I
what
mean, so we'll have a whole posse of police cruisers coming here.
And it's too bad because we work closely with the police, and we're good friends with the chief of police. So we were just doing the cops and kids yesterday. So it's not throwing something at that, but it's kind of a double standard. You know what I mean? Like I say, I come from an era that we were getting maced when we were breakdancing in Holyoke and Springfield. That's a problem. You know what I'm saying? Like when Cooch, we were talking about that tournament at Kennefit, not tournament, when they were playing, they had the tournament where they dispersed everyone and they showed up basically to break up the handball tournament. And not because of permitting issues, but because they saw a group of people playing handball and they had an issue with that. It's like, somebody got to stop this.
A bunch of Latino kids.
Yeah, and unfortunately that's probably what's the case. And it wasn't even kids, it was young, there was some youth there, but it was adults. We were adults, remember 20 years ago, so most of the people were there from anywhere from 15 to 45 probably at the time, because I knew the group that was using it. But that stopped that momentum, that movement that was going on in Kennefit. You can't be just, showing up like that and stopping people from doing something positive like that. So it's not, even here, that's another thing that we were talking about. The porta potties over there got bombed too, but whoever this
We haven't even looked at the
person
inside.
is, you know what I mean? And that's not acceptable. See, that's what I'm saying. It's not always someone that wants to do art. You can see the difference between someone that wants to put their tag in somewhere and when someone just wants to randomly just write on everything. That's why you want to have the boundaries and the limitations of that and the tolerance.
And the thing that we want people to understand, murals do not work on handball.
They don't work on handball courts. We had one allowed at Saucy Park because that court is
Saucy
repurposed.
Park is in Holyoke.
That's in Holyoke, and then there was another one in like you had the Hell's Kitchen one, the famous one, the Crack is Whack one, and I think that's in Manhattan somewhere too. I'm not sure. And those are not used though. Nobody really uses those. So sometimes, but the majority of courts that I've known that have had murals have not been successful. I know Canada has theirs and they have some kind of a mural on that, and it's been working for them. But in other communities, it's been a challenge. You know what I mean? To cover
Serious
up the
handball
walls.
players don't want that.
Yeah, you don't want it because the game is hard. As you know, I've been playing for 43 years, and I still have a hard time
What
playing
do you
this sport.
say? The sport is a game of inches.
No, everything. Because you use all of your body, your mind, everything is all has to be on point. Because if you're just off a little bit, if your weight is a little bit too high, you're gonna cramp. If your opposite is weak, you're gonna miss. You know what I mean? If your timing is off, you're gonna miss. You're gonna lose because of those things. So that's one of the things. So I don't need to add to that. It's bad enough that handball tells you all the time that you're not in shape, you're not smart enough. Handball's always that measuring tool.
Is that calibrator?
Yeah, it definitely does, because it tells you if you're not balanced. It tells you to sneak.
It's like your fitness assessment.
No, even from it really
And then your
does.
emotional
It scans
assessment.
you. Handball scans you from inside and out. It tells you if your mind is weak. It tells you if
Man,
it
today
really
is your bad
does.
day.
No, I'm just saying. It tells you. It says
Today
those
you
sneakers
off.
you got to go get some new sneakers. So go try to get some cheap ones at Marshalls, or go and spend the real money somewhere else and get them at Dick's. But anyway.
At Dick's. Yeah.
But anyway, no. But I'm saying, you know what I'm saying.
I
But
know.
anyway, go get some gum soles.
All right, we have to conclude this, but look.
But I'm just saying,
last
back to what I was saying, you
point.
don't need any more obstructions. Believe it or not, this green is already an obstruction.
Mm-hmm.
It's too dark. We use the real primary ball is a hard blue ball, but I know we go to big blue, but it's still blue. Preferably, that's the ball that everybody's using. Believe it or not, although we deal with it, even these forms, these little cracks on the wall, these things are erratic bounces. So
Yeah.
we dealt with it. It's not too bad for whatever reason. This one doesn't serve as bad as a wave, like the wavy course, like in Lawrence and Kennefitt, and the one
But
that they
even
have
the
problems.
green.
But the green is bad. Even a little depression like this is sinking.
We like neutral beige color.
Yeah. So all of that already affects you. The lack of maybe a small link. I mean, you could deal with it, but that's even bad. This trip right here,
Woo,
this is
look at that.
crazy trip hazard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we already accept these things. We deal with it. You know what I mean? This fence is even kind of close, but we needed something here.
Mm-hmm.
So there's tons of things that can kind of get you. Although, believe it or not, with even all those things that we just mentioned, these are still good courts. But we'll deal with that. But we don't want to deal with, on top of that, something else. That's all we're saying. We just, we're not even asking for that much. It's just don't cover it up with all of these colors, wherever it is. And, don't think that that's just freedom of expression. I mean, and then if you want to think like that, I can't change everybody's mind. I can't go around and tell people how they're supposed to think and everything about their skateboarding community, or what you think is part of a hip-hop culture and all of that stuff. That's you, because not everything in the hip-hop culture was positive anyway. If you're vandalizing the shit out of your cities and towns, to me, that shouldn't even be part of the culture. And if it ever was, then it needed to stop, and it needed to be redirected, because not everything from a culture is necessarily always positive. You know what I mean? So there were some negative things that were coming with the hip-hop culture too, so people need to understand that it's not. Vandalism was one of them. You know what I mean? I'm not talking about the writers that are writing in graffiti and going to all these different things and get permission and they're doing it the right way. I'm talking about the random people that are just writing all over everything and not getting permission to do it. If you do pieces on trains and stuff, that's between you. If you're risking that's you. My job is to protect, in my life, what I want to do is to protect the handball course, because I'm a handball player. I just want to play it, and this is how I pass my favorite pastime. So that's what I want to do. So I can't really protect all the other stuff, although it does bother me when I go to a city that I kind of, that I grew up in, or that I love and all that, and I see all of this. I see trash everywhere, like what we were dealing with Holyoke.
Mm-hmm.
Holyoke has a special place in my heart. That's where I met you. That's where my son and my daughter were born. That's my dad is buried there. One of my best friends is buried there. I have a lot of things that connect me to that small city, Holyoke, and that's why that place. Plus growing up there as a teenager, so I have it's a special place in my heart. The same thing with Brooklyn, New York. The same thing with obviously here. The same thing with even Springfield and Chicopee, that area there, because I, experienced some things there. But even the other places that I have visited, I still, hold dear to me. But that's why we're on our hands and knees and doing all the stuff that we do. Mm-hmm. But that's all it is. Because sometimes people don't understand why we are so passionate and why we get so frustrated when we're dealing with something, like as simple as just not getting something, because sometimes people want to push their ideas and not really respect that we are the ones that are the handball people. We don't just run the tournaments and do clinics. We're actually handball players, so it affects us directly. You know what I mean? We know what we're talking
And
about.
if you have any questions, please reach out to us. My email is nihainc NEHAINC747 @gmail.com, and have a great afternoon. Bye bye.